Hello booktube, hello book friends, welcome back to my channel and another video and another look at more of my favorite natural history books. I think 5 works quite well as a number, so I've picked 5 more, and there is an extra one, so 6 in total, an honourable mention to go along with the 5 that I've picked. All will become clear. But yeah, these are, I think, all from, none of them are from the UK. Although they do kind of feature British people, if that makes sense. Some of them anyway. So yeah, I've picked 5 more from around the world. There is a little bit of a link between a couple of them. And as I say, there's an extra honourable mention. So let's get started, shall we? This is one that I read relatively recently. I think probably I read it during the pandemic lockdowns. It was published originally in 2017. And there are kind of, I suppose, iconic species around the world, aren't there? That, you know, you got the big 5 African game animals, and you know, then other, you know, rhinoceros, gorillas, you know, all sorts of different species. But one that is from the United States that is not only iconic but is seen by some as quite controversial is the wolf. And this is The Wolf by Nate Blake. I can't even say it. Blakeslee. Sorry, Blakeslee. Nate Blakeslee. And this is the story of sort of the wolves that were returned to Yellowstone National Park back in the kind of 70s and 80s. And one wolf in particular, an alpha female, and the book very much follows that wolf's life, and you know what happens, and you know, almost to the point where she has developed sort of a cult following amongst sort of local people who you know, like to watch the wolves and see what's going on, and you know, look for their return to different parts of the park at different times of the year. So this explores that, and some of the related issues around, you know, whether they are killing cattle and things like that on ranches that are within the park or abut the park. So yeah, it's a fascinating read. As I say, read it relatively recently, maybe due a reread. But yeah, if you're interested in wolves and, you know, wolf reintroductions, it's worth a read. Next up, I mentioned gorillas just now, and you know, probably one of the most iconic pictures from natural history filmmaking is of David Attenborough meeting the mountain gorillas in Rwanda as part of the Life on Earth series. They were studied quite extensively for well over a decade by Dian Fossey, who was a American biologist who went and lived with the gorillas in the national park, and studied their behaviour, tried to tackle the poaching that was going on at the time, where poachers were, you know, killing gorillas for various parts of their bodies to sell, for perceived reasons. and ultimately lost her life in the national park. It's thought murdered by one of the poachers. She wrote a book, Gorillas in the Mist, which was subsequently turned into a film starring Sigourney Weaver. And this is her book, but with the the movie cover. It has sort of the original photographs in it that were taken by one of the National Geographic photographers who went and stayed with her for a period of time. It's a great book if you want to kind of understand gorillas and social interaction and so on. Very much worth a read, and a sort of insight into Dian Fossey herself, which brings me to the honourable mention, which is Farley Mowat's biography of Dian Fossey, Woman in the Mist. This is also, if you read Gorillas in the Mist, you should read this as well. Again, it has photographs, or my copy does anyway, of the I'm trying to find one because there's some quite graphic photographs of gorillas that have been killed by poachers. But yeah, so this is well worth a read. I mean, to be honest, any book that Farley Mowat's written, and he's written quite a few natural history stories of his own, is worth a read. So I would recommend, just Farley Mowat as an author. He's also written of his experiences during World War II, I think, which is Where No Birds Sang, or something like that. Don't quote me on that title, but it's something like that. So he was an officer in the Canadian Army in the Second World War, and went on to write many, many books. But yeah, if you're going to read Gorillas in the Mist, read his biography of Dian Fossey as well. Moving on, sticking with primates, but moving slightly, if my geography's right, southeast, something like that, to Tanzania. And Jane Goodall's story of working with chimpanzees in Gombe National Park in Tanzania. And In the Shadow of Man is one of the books that she wrote about her experiences there. Again, very similar to Dian Fossey in the fact that she was very much living with the chimpanzees as Dian Fossey was living with the mountain gorillas. Again, if you can get hold of an older copy, it has great photographs that were taken by her then husband, and very much worth a read. Again, if you're interested in sort of primate behaviour and that sort of thing, this is definitely worth a read. Shifting gears slightly and coming kind of a bit more into the kind of 21st century, back into the 21st century, I think he says, checking that when was this published? 2009. So yeah. Rick Bass is an author who writes both fiction and non-fiction, but most of his non-fiction is kind of natural history or outdoors based. And the book I'm recommending is The Wild Marsh, which is a year in his home in the Yak Valley in Montana. And it's written very much as a diary, and on a month-by-month basis. And his experiences living there as a writer, writing as an outdoorsman with his wife and I think two girls, And it's just, I really enjoyed this. Again, it's been a while since I've read it. Feel like I, would love to go back and read it again. But it's very much set in what I would call timber country. So there is a kind of ever-present threat of clear felling of the forests, and the impact that would have on, the wildlife there. There's, issues as you would expect with forest fire. The fact that the area he lives gets pretty much cut off in the winter with snowfall. Yeah, I really, really love reading this, and would recommend it as another natural history book to read. And then finally, again, another kind of favourite author of mine, who writes, I suppose he writes everything from natural history, anthropology, a very broad kind of broad scope in his writing. And that's Craig Childs. And the book I've picked is The Animal Dialogues. So this is very much a book of, I suppose it's a book of short stories, really. His encounters with different species over the years, and different places where he's met them, and so it's kind of split up into the big carnivores, birds, the sort of I don't know what the term for them is, but the mountain goats and sheep and deer, ungulates, maybe that's the right word. Excuse me. And then sort of everything else from squid to rattlesnakes and so on. Some of them are really, some of them are funny encounters. All of them are fascinating. But yeah, very much would recommend The Animal Dialogues by Craig Childs. And that's it. That's my 5/6 books for, what's this, part 3. If you like another one, let me know in the comments below. If you have been, thank you for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.